When a simple question about government boundaries is met with absolute silence, you are no longer watching a standard policy debate. You are witnessing the exact ideological divide defining modern power. Notice the immediate evasion when an elected official asks a panel of experts to name just one instance where the state has gone too far. It is a stunning moment of revelation, because it exposes an underlying philosophy that views bureaucratic authority as inherently flawless and infinitely expanding. In any healthy democratic republic, the burden of proof traditionally falls upon the government to justify every single intrusion into the private lives and economic liberties of its citizens. Yet what we observe in this tense confrontation is a complete inversion of that foundational principle. The witnesses sitting before the Senate committee operate under the clear assumption that regulatory mandates are universally beneficial, asserting instead that anyone advocating for freedom must first prove that state control is actively harmful. This reluctance to concede even a hypothetical flaw within 175,000 pages of federal rules reveals a deep-seated resistance to accountability. The immediate instinct is not to analyze the real-world impact of compliance, but to defend the apparatus of the state at all costs. This dynamic exposes the highly coordinated nature of modern congressional testimony, where institutional representatives arrive pre-briefed to maintain an impenetrable, unified front. The psychological tension in the room becomes palpable because the silence is not born of ignorance, but of a strategic refusal to validate the opposition's premise. Conceding that overregulation exists, even in a minor technical capacity, would shatter the moral authority of an administrative apparatus that demands unquestioned compliance. As the dialogue unfolds, the tension shifts from abstract philosophy to direct economic consequences, specifically focusing on the leadership of prominent environmental organizations. We hear explicit declarations about acting as agents of change to ensure laws do not advantage one group over another, a noble sentiment that quickly unravels when subjected to rigorous scrutiny. The ideological contradiction becomes glaringly obvious when the discussion turns to the deliberate dismantling of traditional energy sectors. The explicit goal is to alter the status quo, effectively utilizing the immense weight of federal mandates to suppress established industries while artificially incentivizing preferred alternatives. This is not neutral governance. It is the active selection of economic winners and losers engineered by administrative decree. When challenged on the tangible costs of these sweeping environmental initiatives, the defense relies heavily on projections and agency-generated data promising hundreds of thousands of new green jobs in the distant future. This sparks an intense analytical clash over competing economic models, highlighting the stark divide between agency-sponsored forecasts and independent empirical research. We see direct references to findings from the Black National Chamber of Commerce, which reached fundamentally different conclusions regarding the severe economic damage inflicted upon domestic employment. This informational warfare reveals how administrative agencies frequently utilize internal metrics to justify their own expansion, presenting predictive success stories while dismissing contradictory external studies as irrelevant. But grand promises made in committee rooms offer very little comfort to working-class families currently struggling to pay their monthly utility bills. The exchange hits a peak moment of friction when the real-world trajectory of consumer electricity prices over the past decade is brought to the forefront. A sharp distinction is drawn between theoretical models and the undeniable reality of dramatic cost increases hitting the average household. Attempting to defer accountability by claiming the true results will only be visible once new frameworks are fully implemented ignores the immediate financial pain felt by millions. The analogy of the pudding perfectly captures this disconnect between elite policy aspirations and everyday economic survival. If previous regulatory waves were justified using the exact same assurances of zero job losses and lower costs, yet resulted in skyrocketing bills and industrial stagnation, the credibility of future forecasts is fundamentally compromised. Lower income demographics and minority communities are inevitably the hardest hit by these aggressive policies, as energy costs consume a significantly larger portion of their household income. Instead of equal protection under the law, excessive mandates function as a highly regressive tax, quietly draining resources from the most vulnerable populations while subsidizing high-tech ventures in major metropolitan centers. Small-scale domestic manufacturers are particularly devastated by these compounding utility expenses, operating on razor-thin margins where even a marginal upward shift in overhead costs can force immediate layoffs or total insolvency. The discussion briefly touches upon international investments and the necessity of building smart grids domestically. Yet the inescapable reality remains that local capital is being systematically exhausted by strict domestic compliance regimes. The scope of this administrative overreach extends far beyond energy production, penetrating deeply into the everyday aspirations of ordinary citizens seeking to build a better life. This brings us to the profound and often overlooked crisis of occupational licensing, a system where established corporate interests weaponize state power to crush grassroots competition. In sector after sector, regulations originally marketed to the public as vital consumer safety measures have transformed into impenetrable barriers designed to protect entrenched monopolies. Consider the sheer absurdity of forcing an aspiring interior decorator to invest years of their life and thousands of dollars acquiring a formal college degree before being legally permitted to arrange furniture in a private residence. Massive corporations possess entire compliance departments and legal teams dedicated exclusively to navigating these complex frameworks, turning regulatory barriers into a highly effective competitive moat that insulates them from lean, innovative challengers. The individuals who successfully navigate these artificial hurdles naturally report complete satisfaction with the regulatory environment because those very rules insulate them from new rivals. When established business owners testify that they face no burden from current laws, they are speaking from a position of protected privilege. The true, unseen cost of this administrative barrier is borne by the countless entrepreneurs who are entirely priced out of the market before they even begin. These are the forgotten individuals who are denied the dignity of self-reliance, forced either to accept wage labor in unrelated fields or to remain entirely marginalized. The distortion reaches its absolute pinnacle in jurisdictions that criminalize basic trades, such as requiring a formal government license simply to arrange and sell flowers. When the state mandates official authorization for floristry, it becomes undeniably clear that the primary objective is no longer public welfare, but the preservation of institutional control. A century ago, the path to upward mobility was remarkably straightforward for immigrants and minority laborers who possess nothing but determination and a willingness to work hard. An enterprising individual could simply acquire an automobile, paint the word taxi on the exterior, and immediately begin serving their community while building generational wealth. Basic civil liability and standard safety codes ensured public protection without strangling the initiative of the individual operator. Today, however, that simple dream is blocked by a sprawling labyrinth of municipal boards, medallion requirements, and bureaucratic approvals that effectively require permission from existing competitors just to enter the marketplace. The modern entrepreneurial spirit is continuously suffocated by an adversarial system that treats independent commerce as a suspect activity requiring endless oversight. Look no further than the struggle of an ordinary citizen attempting to launch a modest independent moving company, an enterprise that requires nothing more than physical effort, a reliable truck, and honest service. Instead of being celebrated for their initiative, such individuals are forced to hire legal counsel, attend formal hearings, and prove to unelected officials that their business will foster sound economic conditions. The sheer ambiguity of such standards grants administrators arbitrary power to deny livelihoods based on subjective criteria, effectively halting upward mobility for those who lack political influence. This regulatory environment creates a profound illusion of stability among entrenched stakeholders, while systematically eroding the dynamic foundations of the broader economy. Describing the current commercial landscape as healthy simply because major corporations continue to report profits completely ignores the devastating suppression of small-scale innovation. The memorable narrative of the man falling from a massive skyscraper, remarking at the halfway point that everything seems fine, serves as a chilling warning for our current economic trajectory. Cumulative burdens may not cause an immediate collapse, but they slowly poison the wellspring of prosperity by preventing necessary recovery and dynamic growth. The foundational promise of the nation rests upon the absolute right of everyday people to create wealth through their own labor and ingenuity, rather than relying on centralized redistribution. When the administrative state prioritizes the preservation of bureaucratic authority over the fundamental rights of the entrepreneur, it breaks that sacred covenant. Ultimately, the refusal to acknowledge even a single instance of regulatory failure is not a mere oversight. It is a deliberate defense of an unyielding system that demands complete submission from the citizens it was originally created to serve.